Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Purdy Insurance. Visit Purdy Insurance on Market Street in Sunbury or visit online at purdyinsurance.com.
Let's get to the Eagles preseason. Glen Macnow joins us. Glenn, off to a good start the other day. First of all, great to have you with us. Welcome.
Always my pleasure, Steve.
All right, so now let's get to the game itself. Really put together a really nice opening performance in the context of preseason, which you've seen so much in the course of your career. What'd you like about it?
Well, what I liked about it is they got the first unit offense in there. They wanted to throw the ball. Jalen Hurts went 6 for 6. They scored a touchdown. They got him out of there. That's pretty much all you could ask for.
Yeah, it is pretty much all you can ask for along the way. So a lot of this is about roster spots 40 through 53. You know, you got 3 preseason games to determine that. It's not a quarterback battle or it's not a running back battle, anything like that. So what did you see in those roster spots that bear watching as to somebody that might make this roster?
Okay. First, let me tell you, there is some degree of breaking news. I don't know if you had this today, but because this is a guy who was fighting for a roster spot, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah.
The second-round pick from 3 years ago, and he was not doing anything. He was trying to switch over to tight end. The Eagles just traded him within the last hour or two to Seattle for a defensive back named Ugo Amadi. I don't know much about Ugo Amadi, except when I look it up, it says the Seahawks were expected to release him today. So rather than looks like 2 guys who had the chance of being released where they were got traded for each other. Maybe the Eagles picked up a little cornerback depth. So that's one thing I noticed. That's a guy who's not going to be here.
Right.
As for a guy I noticed who impressed me, although there's no doubt he's going to make the team, Cam Jurgens, the second-round pick center, who played for Jason Kelce, I thought looked really good. It's Jason Kelce. We hope he's going to play forever. Probably won't. And I think Cam Jurgens is a guy Kelce wanted him to draft, and I think he looked really good in his time.
Yeah, he's the Nebraska kid, and I know that Kelce had said he's the best center in the draft. You know, I mean, I thought Linderbaum from Iowa, and I saw both of them in person, but he knows his craft better than I do. I just know what my eyes told me. It doesn't matter. They're both really good players, and Jurgens can play guard as well. So, and give us an idea, Glenn, about versatility in the offensive line, because the numbers in the regular season are limited.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. So they have a terrific starting offensive line from left to right with Mailata.
No
Dickerson's going to be the guard this year, the second-round pick last year. And I think he's going to be a really quality offensive lineman. Kelce, Seumalo at right guard, Lane Johnson at right tackle. So who's going to be there after that? Jurgens is going to be there. Be interesting to see what happens with Andre Dillard, the first-round pick in 2019. He's only played left tackle. When they tried him at right tackle, he was completely uncomfortable. As you're saying, you can only carry a limited number of guys. You need flexibility. I don't know what's going to happen with Dillard. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him. Jack Driscoll will be the backup tackle, floating both sides, and he's pretty good. Who am I leaving out? Opeta is the other guard. But that's it. Listen, they got depth. Jack Anderson's a guard who played well. They have depth at the offensive line. Wouldn't be surprised if Dillard's out of here.
Linebackers, there's a lot of sub-packages. So people are playing a lot of nickel and dimes these days. But a lot of people have thought, okay, shore up the linebacking a little bit. Okay, so what did you think of the linebackers?
I thought Kaiser White looked good. Listen, again, the starting defense only played 11 plays against the Jets and did well. Jets' first unit didn't score. The poor quarterback got hurt. That didn't help the Jets. But I thought Kaiser White, who's the new will linebacker that they got, looked pretty good. I don't know what else I can tell you. Nakobe Dean didn't quite look comfortable. He had one nice play. I think we all are infatuated with the kid, but he may not be ready to play. And I'm not talking about physically. I think he may need a little bit of development time. He reminds me a little bit of Jeremiah Trotter when Trot came here. And I understand, listen, Dean was, the captain of the best defense in the country versus Trotter came from Stephen Austin. So there is that difference in terms of what they had in the past. But Nakobe Dean may need a little time to develop.
But that's okay. It's a different speed of the game. And there's also,
sure.
Glen,
that's okay.
Glen,
all right.
There's also a couple of different expectations, too, about what the position is in this league because they do throw the ball so much.
Yeah, they do. And you rarely have more than 2 linebackers on the field. You know, in the Eagles' depth chart, I think they're still listing Hassan Reddick as a linebacker, which is what I want to see, and what they really haven't revealed is whether they're going to play a 4-3 or a 3-4. They've done both in camp. They're not telling you anything. The head coach is very circumspect. If you ask him what's going to happen, he says, well, I don't want to give anything away. You'll see. But if you're going a 3-4 and you're technically counting Hassan Reddick as a linebacker, he's going to be an impact player here this year. There's little doubt about that.
Yeah. So you referenced Nick Sirianni. Second year as a head coach. Do you see any difference as to how he approaches things? Any difference as to how he approaches the media? Anything that shows he's got a year under his belt?
Well, I'll say 2 things. One is, you mentioned the media, he's much more comfortable. Yeah. Last year, if you remember his introductory news conference where he's sweating and talking fast, and he tried too hard, and I understand that. It seemed obvious he was trying to be popular, and a head coach can't worry about that. And this year, I think he's much more comfortable. He's much more confident. The big difference, I think, with Sirianni this year is not Nick. I think the players have bought in. They didn't know what they had last year. He's a new head coach, very little experience, young, a little bit chatty. Players, veteran players, they need that head coach to prove something. Now, if you talk to guys like Kelsey and Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson and the guys who've been around for a while, they believe in him. They like him. They swear by him. He's got the loyalty of the leaders on the team, and I think that's going to help. It's going to go a long way for him this year.
I know he's big on Jordan Davis.
Me too.
When you watch him, does he have? Now, maybe he doesn't have to do this because of the way they are depth-wise. Do you think he's a big man, but can he play 50 or 60 plays in a game?
It's not gonna. No, it won't happen because you still got Fletcher Cox, and Cox is certainly on the downward side of it, but Cox will play 30 plays a game, and Davis will play 30 plays a game, and they have Javon Hargrave, and they play Milton Williams inside a good amount. He's not going to have to play 60 plays a game, and when he is out there, you see him out there. The size is staggering when you see him.
Yes.
I've seen big guys come out for this team. I've seen John Runyon and King Dunlap and, guys in the past who are just the size of a garage. He may be the biggest in terms of all, heft and height and muscle that I've seen, and they're already double-teaming him. The Jets in a preseason game are having 2 men so that he doesn't blow up the middle on a pass play, and I think that's what he's going to do all year. I think he's just going to collapse it up the middle, kind of push everything, and the quarterback's going to have to run around, and other Eagles will get the sack.
He's also under the wing of Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox talks to him all the time about technique.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Davis, even at Georgia, playing in the SEC, technique was not important to him because he was just quicker and bigger than everybody else.
Yeah, sure. And that's what happens. You get some guys.
That's a fact of life. I mean, that's not a criticism. That's a fact of life. All right? Having a guy like Cox that says, okay, at this level, remember to do this, what does that mean for the young man's future?
Yeah, well, listen, Fletcher Cox is not a Pro Football Hall of Famer, but he's going to be an Eagles Hall of Famer. He's made the Pro Bowl, half a dozen times in his career. He is a professional the way he has approached the game. He knows the technique. He knows the opponents. And I think that having that guy chatter in your ear when you're a rookie is invaluable. I don't know Jordan Davis. I've spoken to him 2, maybe 3 times, but I'm really impressed by him. I think he really wants to succeed. You say they all do, but I think he wants to be a great player, and he's got the physical attributes. I think it can happen. Of everybody on this team right now, he was the guy I was watching the closest on Friday night, and he kind of confirmed everything that I hoped he would be. I think he's going to be a great player.
All right, so let's take a next step. So what did you see to confirm that?
Just his sheer ability to push people around and not be pushed around. I mean, that's really what it is. Yeah. It's
right.
him.
Right.
He's right in the middle of the field, and the ball is snapped, and he's going forward against the offensive line. He's not going backwards. And that's pretty much what I want from that position.
Devontae Smith is getting himself back into the mix, but everybody has a chance to see A.J. Brown. It's one thing to have everybody look at what he did at Tennessee. Has been as advertised to you?
Well, he didn't do anything in the game. They didn't target him in the game, and that's okay. The one thing I would say in practice that it's all short passes. At least when we were able to watch it, they're throwing short to him, and then he's trying to bust through it. I want to see him go deep. I understand that Smith will, by and large, be the deep guy, and you got Quez Watkins with a lot of speed. I mean, I can't say A.J. Brown's a disappointment. I would just say that what I have seen of him is limited in that everything he catches is 5 yards past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. When Miles Sanders was up here a couple months ago, I just noticed he was a bit lighter. He said, "Look," I got to be quicker." I said, "Okay." So, what do you think of Miles so far?
He's had a good camp, explosive, but he's always had explosive in him. What I don't know yet. So, listen, we know he can run the ball. That he can do.
Okay.
What kind of declined in his career, what he got worse at in the last year, was he was a really good receiver as a rookie. You remember, I mean, you covered him in college. He was really good at catching the ball out of the backfield. And last year he lost that. I don't know why. There's really no good reason to think of it. I can't tell you he's got it back or not because it's practice. So I really can't tell you. But he is quicker. They say more explosive. He needs to catch the ball. I think this year they're going to use Gainwell a good amount, that's the plan, that he'll catch the ball out of the backfield. I don't know. Let me put it this way, and we're not talking fantasy football, but if I had a fantasy football draft, I would move Miles Sanders down a couple of rounds because I don't think he's going to get the ball as much as he has in past years.
Interesting. Very interesting. And Gainwell can be a good receiver in this offense.
Yeah.
I mean, because I had him in the Cotton Bowl and saw him play in the Cotton Bowl. Good player.
Well, let me just say this about Gainwell. What he's got to show this year is that he can block, because that's what he couldn't do as a rookie.
Oh, no. Well, he couldn't do that at Memphis either. Believe me. It was, they were. They were in the backfield left and right. During the course of that game, and he could not handle anybody. But it's a different level. All right. Glenn, great stuff. Really appreciate the time you gave us today and all the information.
Steve, it's always my pleasure. Anytime.